the Administration and Finance Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Here.
McBride. Here. Livingston.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mackey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 23rd, 2023. Do we have any changes to the minutes?
That being said, Madam Chair, I move for approval. of the
Second.
minutes.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham.
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Administrator Brown, do we have any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions requested, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk?
Brenham.
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, and we're at number 4, which is items for action. And before we begin, I want to point out to everyone, we do have item 4C is an item that is for executive session, and we'll go to executive session at that time. But just wanted to point that out. The first is 4A, Community Planning and Development, the Business Service Center Ordinance Amendment. Administrator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to certainly recognize our Business Service Center Director, Zach Kavanaugh, but specifically, these items have come before council in the form of presentations in 2 ways. One, the rate class schedule, as listed here. This is a compliance issue that we're seeking approval for. And then secondarily, the business license tax rates, which are consistent with the county budget ordinance that you recently passed, where again, staff came before you during work sessions, presented the scheduling, and then ultimately that information was approved during the budget process. Again, we have the Business Services Director here to answer any detailed questions that you have. But from this process, this is really just, it's not ministerial. It does require full council action, but based on previous votes that you've taken, that really would make it more ministerial than it would be new information to you. But again, certainly stand ready to take any questions that you have, or if you require additional information, I'll have Mr. Kavanaugh come forward and speak to the committee.
Thank you, Administrator Brown. I want to give my committee members a time if anybody needs a refresher at all from staff or have any other questions. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for item 4A.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval in a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the vote for item 4A?
Brenham.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next is 4B, County Administrator Reimbursement Resolution for 2023-24, General Obligation Bond for Family Services Center and improvements at Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. Administrator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again, members of the committee. So what you have before you, again, this is not really new information, and we've done this before, and what we're asking, what this particular recommendation is saying is, we know that we are moving forward with the renovations at the detention center. We know that we're moving forward with the construction and renovation of a family services center. We know at some point in the near future, we're going to be going out to the bond market. In the meantime, we want to continue to move forward with the development of, the renovations that we're doing, and we want to reimburse ourselves through the bond that we ultimately get. So we don't want to hold anything up, just generally financial-wise. We'll use money we have on hand already, and then we'll reimburse ourselves when we get the bond. And again, these are projects that have already been approved by council. This is nothing that staff will be doing that's not consistent with previous approvals. And this is not going out and building something that you haven't seen. So don't think about that. So these are just, for example, we talk about the locking system at the detention facility. So just imagine us moving forward with funds associated with that, and then reimbursing ourselves back from the bond that we know that you're going to be considering in the near months coming up. So that's what we're requesting, and that's why we're requesting this item. Again, we have our financial subject matter expert here, Lori Thomas. So if you want to ask specific questions related to the reimbursement resolution, or any further details about the process, please feel free to do so. But we're asking for this reimbursement resolution to allow us to move forward fluidly with the renovations that we're doing at the facilities that are mentioned in the resolution.
All right, so we'll go with Branham, Livingston, Weaver.
Mr. Brown, just wanted to ask, you guys have a timetable for when the bond funds would be obtained?
We talked about some potential time dates with our financial advisor. We haven't brought that to council. I think we had talked about an October timeframe. But again, that hasn't been solidified. But when we talked to our financial advisor about preparing what they may look like, we kind of had October as a time frame.
Okay, thank you.
Livingston?
These are bonds that council have already approved.
You have not approved any bonds, and this is not an approval of a bond. This is saying to us, we know that you're going to fund the Family Services Center, and it will require you to borrow money. That's been established. So what we're saying to you is, in the meantime, we're going to spend money that we already have, anticipating that you're going to borrow money. When we borrow that money, we will pay ourselves back. The county will pay itself back with those bond proceeds. And again, that's not unique to Richland. We've done that several times throughout the course of our bonding. And we're just asking to do that again now to help us continue to move forward with these projects and not have any, stoppages. But this is not the approval of a bond. I want to make sure.
Mr. Weaver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Brown, so out of the $25 million, how much is going to Alvin Glenn roughly, and how much to DSS? Do we know how the breakdown is?
We don't know it's not a specific breakdown. We do know that between those two, pots of money that will be needed, easily upwards of $60 million. But we don't need to have all that right now. We just need to have enough to move projects forward. And that's why we said up to $25 million, because we don't anticipate, needing more than that between the two levels that we're doing. So we're not trying to construct or finish both projects with this money. We're just trying not to have any stoppages. And we're trying to set ourselves a clear path for financial means to address these issues.
Okay.
So when we come to you with the and it'll be coming up pretty soon to Councilmember Branham's question. When we come to you with the financial picture from First Tryon, who is our, debt agency that we utilize, they'll give us an outlay, and we'll show you the different pots that we're actually asking for with the ultimate bond that we look for. So sorry I don't have a more detail, because it's just not broken down that way. We didn't say $10 million for Alvin S. Glenn and then $15 million for Family Services Center. It's just that we feel like up to that amount of money would give us enough room to do what we need to do in the meantime.
But I'm confident that when you come to council with a bond request, it'll all be detailed then, of
It
course.
will be.
Okay.
Because we have specific information for you to consider as a part of that. We have to also provide that to the folks who will potentially provide the money to us, so they can know what they're getting into.
All right, and my second question is, so if I understand what you're saying is you're taking cash from Richland County right now, available funds, 5 million, 8 million, whatever it is, you're paying for locks, you're doing this, the 25 million will replenish that when the bonds are passed.
Correct.
Back to cash, am I saying
Whatever
that
amount that
correctly?
is spent, Correct. So
Okay.
if we borrow $40 million, sir, and we spent $2 million,
Okay.
then we would take $2 million of those dollars from those bond proceeds, replenish the county, and that $38 million that is remaining will continue to go towards the projects as they're identified.
Okay.
You are correct.
That's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, I had a question just regarding the resolution. Is it typical for us to put both projects in one
So for,
versus having a separate one for family service or a separate one for Alvin S. Glenn?
right, so you can't, I'm sorry, what? Right. ACA Thomas was just saying it's the cost of issuance. So when you go out for, I mean, you can bond as many times as you want, but you pay. So what we're talking about is we're putting it together to reduce the cost of issuing that debt. So that's why you have a combined area for that. So we've, in the past, in recent past, we've done debt service and we've spelled each one of them out. Previous council asked us, you know, can we do this better? Because each time you're spending money to borrow money. And so, again, this is just an opportunity for us to learn from, to be better, be more efficient with the taxpayer dollars.
Madam Chair, I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, Mr.
All right,
Weaver.
Mr. Brown, and so by approving this or moving forward with this, none of this requires a tax increase right now, correct?
Nothing that I'm speaking of or that I'm requesting has anything at all to do with a request for a tax increase.
Okay.
So assuming that based off what the council previously approved, that we'll go for bond money, it will have nothing to do with increasing taxes. So the
Fantastic.
county has not requested an increase in taxes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a motion for approval
Second.
and second. Any other discussion? All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston. Yes. Weaver,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. The next item is item 4C, Community Planning and Development Conservation Cabin Branch Property Acquisition. And this is an item that I spoke at the beginning of the meeting that would be for executive session. And I'd ask that Administrator Brown or Attorney Wright speak to this item and the need for executive session.
So the reason why this item is being requested for executive session is because it potentially involves a contract acquisition of property. And generally when we speak about buying property or selling property, in this case acquiring property, we want to hold the county's best interest by not having folks say, oh, the county's going to buy it, let's now run out and run up the price because they got a lot of money. So we ask for these matters to be discussed in executive session to allow the free flow of that discussion. And then if the body decides at a later time to address the potential acquisition or disposal of property, then any action is taken in an open session concerning that. But the discussion generally takes place in executive session. And there is the attorney can speak to this, but the procurement laws allow for that discussion because it's contract related items.
Attorney Wright, can you confirm on the record that this item is eligible for us to go in executive session to discuss?
Yes, I think pursuant to, I think 30-7-40 subsection 2A.
Thank you so much.
Executive session, Madam Chair.
Motion for executive session? Second. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are now in executive session. I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to come out of executive session. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. The committee went into executive session, discussed item 4C, the Community Planning and Development Conservation Cabin Branch Property Acquisition. No action was taken in executive session. All right. Colleagues, we are at item 5, unless there's anything else people would like to discuss.
Motion to Senator.
Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion. I'll figure out how to make that motion.
All right, Mr. Weaver, your motion dies for a lack of a second.
Oh.
Mr. Livingston,
Sorry.
And I may need some help from staff, but my motion is to allow staff to move forward with the application reference item for the properties stated 1A and for option 1A and, well, 1A and option 2, option 1 as it listed here. But that application is what I'm not clear on how to say what exactly, who that application is going to be going submitted to.
Administrator Brown, you recognize?
Sure, I believe that application will be made to the Conservation Bank. Mr. Livingston, that's
Yes.
correct, Conservation Bank.
That application, submit the application to Conservation Bank reference, item 1A, that's discussed in executive session, and 2, option 1. Those are the correct items we're referring to, correct?
Correct.
That's my motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we have Ms. McBride and then Mr. Branham.
And just for clarification, the application, the motion is just to give approval for the application and no other approval is being given beyond application. Is that correct? It's just for approval for application.
Yes.
I don't need to make a comment, thanks.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second and discussion. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Weaver, now's your time.
Motion to adjourn,
All
Madam
right,
Chair.
we have a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
This motion is second. Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.